After leading from start to finish in his first Supersport race in CSBK, Torrin Collins riding his Novalda Suzuki will look to make it 2 in a row.
Shannonville Motorsport Park plays home to the opening round of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship in 2025. In race 1, a tornado of speed in the form of 19-year-old Calgary sensation Torrin Collins struck the Supersport field. Will Torrin's torrid start to 2025 continue with a weekend sweep, or will the stacked Supersport field find a way to break through for a victory of their own? Visor down, engines hot, let's go racing in Shannonville. Marshall Ferguson alongside Colin Fraser as we are getting set for race number 2 in the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship Supersport category. In race number 1, Torrin Collins goes on to victory. Matt Simpson returns as well. Sebastian Tremblay in the mix, but he has a fight on his hands this season, Colin.
So the middleweight class produces lots of action. It was maybe not quite as exciting yesterday as we were hoping for. Tremblay had some issues, but we have had a little bit of a changing of the guard, and you can't say enough about Collins, who we very seldom see, but he pops up on a brand new bike at a track he's never been before and sets the pace from the start.
A great performance from Torrin Collins in race number 1. Here's how they'll line up for race number 2.
There we see Simpson just a 10th off pole position. Tremblay, the reigning champion, right there too. Phil de Gama-Blanchette, his debut on the Ducati V-Twin coming from out west. Trevor Daley on the Suzuki that was the top Canadian at Daytona. Starts row 3. It would go through the rest of the grid. Maverick Sear is going to make his second ever race start on the Triumph Triple after switching from Ducati last season.
You see Marco Souza, Mac Wheel, and Laurent La Liberté Girard as well, jumping up into the Pro Supersport class as we get a look around Shannonville Motorsport Park.
Here we have the perimeter layout of Shannonville, pretty straightforward design. Obviously not the hardest track to learn because Torrin Collins learned it in about 10 seconds.
He laid down some great lap times in race number 1. We'll see what he can do here in race number 2. All 2.46 kilometers ready to go. Let's go down to our Bridgestone pit reporter, Sarah Said.
Thanks, Marshall. It was defending champion Sebastian Tremblay's first time racing against Torrin Collins in race 1 here in Shannonville of the Pro Supersport division. And he said that Torrin's style of driving was quite unusual. Collins competed in Superbike last year, and though he is new to the class here in Canada, he kicked off the championship in Shannonville, finishing first with Matt Simpson in second and Tremblay in third. Tremblay says in the first few laps he was taking it all in, just watching his fellow Suzuki rider Collins, not thinking he's going to make it. But now he's unfazed and feels as though he is used to Collins' way of riding and feels confident he can get close and battle with him. Back to you.
Thank you, Sarah, as we get a look at the Power Sports TO starting lights. They are on and out. We're full throttle at Shannonville Motorsport Park. As a good start here, it looks like for Trevor Daley around the outside, but Torrin Collins holds the lead.
Yeah, Daley's Suzuki looks a lot like Collins' Suzuki, and he came roaring up the left side of the grid. I think he's in 4th in front of Simpson, so this could lead to fireworks.
Yeah, they are going to go side by side here as Phil de Gama-Blanchette as well. What a great start for him on that Ducati V2, being able to get up into 3rd immediately.
Backwards facing shot of the number 1 GSXR 750 of our reigning champion, Seb Tremblay, and he looks like he has the bit between his teeth. I think yesterday he was a little uncomfortable engaging with Collins, and there you see one of the oddball things that Collins does is look behind him during the middle of a turn.
And looking over his right shoulder as well, and that's the direction that Tremblay decides to go, is big wiggle there and looks down at his right hand to make sure everything is settled as he gets it turned in.
So Tremblay lined up Collins. There was a pass planned there. Tremblay is much more on the gas than we saw him yesterday, and this is good news. Now, gotta mention, cooler, overcast conditions, no heat in the track, not a great morning.
Trevor Daly just making a move up into third position as he got past Phil DeGama Blanchette. There you see the white one-speed Suzuki with the number 9 on the front as they make their way back to the front straight once again. A very entertaining first lap, but just like race 1, the 71 is out in front.
Got to mention Vieira in 6th, not even the top Ducati. This is a surprise, so full marks to DeGama Blanchette. Daly the man on the move so far. What a good start by him.
Big move, Matt Simpson down the inside of DeGama Blanchette as well, so Simpson charging his way up the order once again.
Yesterday, Vieira kind of got hung out and got picked off by Daly late in the race, so he's at the back of this lead group. I think that Lang is with them at the moment too, so we'll see how much they spread out. This is looking a lot more like a conventional middleweight race than what we saw yesterday.
And Collins unable to gap the rest of the field early on the way that he did yesterday as Elliot Vieira makes a move past DeGama Blanchette as well, so Phil struggling a little bit right now and other riders taking advantage.
Yeah, Simpson there on a really wide exit off the back straight trying to find a way by Daly. Daly's the guy on the move right now. He has shown good pace. Yesterday he got bogged down and lost the leaders early. That is not the situation. Right now he is driving the pace.
Really feels like whether it be Tremblay, Daly, or Simpson, they just don't want to let Torrin Collins get away the way that he did in race number 1.
Yeah, Daly is turning some of the best laps so far, and of course everybody behind him is inspired by that. John Lang, who didn't have a great race yesterday, was a contender last year on Kawasaki, won a race. He is now at the back of the lead group, so that's a positive sign for the Westerner.
Plenty of contenders up in a packed front of the field as they try to hold on to Torrin Collins, including this man, Sebastian Tremblay, with the number 1 plate. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Importations Thibault, Bridgestone, and EBC Brakes and Clutches. Closed captioning for the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship is brought to you in part by MotorcycleCourse.com, Keen Truck Incorporated, and Revs for Rhett. Welcome back to Shannonville Motorsport Park. A change here during the break. Trevor Daly finding his way through on Sebastian Tremblay for second.
And doing what you're supposed to do, which is make the pass and pull away, demoralize those behind, and that's exactly what Daly's done. Now let's see the replay looking backwards from Tremblay's Suzuki, and the Daly Suzuki goes whistling underneath on the last left-hander before we get to the turn onto the back straight. Daly's bike has very strong performance, and you can see here, and this is not the first time this weekend when Trevor has moved somebody over to make something happen.
Great battle right there between Tremblay and Trevor Daly, and now it's Tremblay and Matt Simpson as they fight their way through for the final spot on the podium early on.
Yeah, and they've got to be worried, right? Because that podium spot is key, and everybody's thinking who can put some pressure on Collins, and that Daly has come up from row 3 to be the guy who's turning those lap times. Simpson was a catalyst yesterday. Today it seems to be Daly. Let's see if Simpson can hook up and make some things happen closer to the front.
DeGama Blanchette, we mentioned earlier, sliding a little bit. Taking advantage is the 707 of John Lang that's all the way up into 6th position. And how about the triumph of Maverick Sear in 8th?
Yeah, let's quickly talk about Lang. He has made a change this year. He is on an ex-Ben Young Suzuki, which is more or less a sister machine of Daly's GSXR. Good shot of Simpson there, showing how aggressive he is. And look at that, squares it up on the brakes, makes a decision early to get by Tremblay and makes that work. A lot of hard effort went into getting the lap time down so he could be lined up. So watch here, lots of lean, and the key is his body weight's completely square. He ducks underneath. He's not working the edge of the tire until he gets past Tremblay, and Tremblay for once didn't have to pick up his bike and get out of the way.
The commitment from Matt Simpson there, leaning totally different body language. You could tell how aggressive he was trying to find that spot on the inside of Tremblay. He makes it stick for now, and so he's up into 3rd.
And now Tremblay's the guy who's been bumped off the podium, and for all of these guys, the podium is kind of the minimal acceptable situation because they're already thinking about points. Collins won yesterday, so he's leading the championship. Obviously very early days, but we know that early moves can be enough to get you the title. It worked for Tremblay last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Lap number 7 of 18 here as the gap continues to close down. Simpson all over the back of Trevor Daly, and just in behind them you see Vieira and Phil DeGama Blanchette.
Yeah, you can see Simpson was thinking about trying to make that same move again. He didn't. Daly, I think, is more square on his bike and concentrating on getting the drive. And I think that Daly Suzuki is just a little bit quicker than the bikes that he's around. And remember that this is a bike he spent a lot of time getting ready for Daytona. He tested there last fall. Obviously had a strong performance over the course of 4 days in March, just a few months ago.
Matt Simpson looks so smooth right now, but just unable to catch up to Trevor Daly as he continues to hold him off for second spot right now, while Collins running away out front. Oh, this scrap's happening.
And Daly is not riding his Superbike this weekend. He's concentrating on his Supersport machine. Simpson has never piloted a Superbike. He's always been an R6 rider. He came up through the lightweight division, so very different backgrounds here. And Daly, of course, by far the more experienced rider. Simpson did come very close to winning this championship a couple of years ago aboard a Yamaha, got down to the final round at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
As they make their way through the final chunk before hitting that hairpin, where you see once again Simpson using that same strategy that he passed Tremblay, and he's able to make this one stick as well as Daly hops it, and now they make contact heading down the back straight.
Yeah, here we are side by side. Daly just repassed after that bold move by Simpson as we come into the braking zone in turn 11.
Oh no, and Simpson goes deep, and now he's off the bike as well, and oh goodness, that is massive. And Matt Simpson is down as Trevor Daly holds on to second spot. Tremblay takes over third, Vieira up into fourth, but that is an absolute disaster for Matthew Simpson.
Yeah, Daly won't know what happened because his eyes were looking to the inside there, but that collision looks like it had something to do with the brakes on Simpson's motorcycles.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the red flag. CRCA marshals are stopping this one. So I don't know exactly what happened, but it sure looked like Matt Simpson realized he had no brakes at the place where you need them the most.
Torrin Collins out in front, but this race has been red flagged. We'll return in just a moment. Welcome back to Shannonville Motorsport Park. We're getting set to restart this race. The red flag came out as an issue with Matthew Simpson, and it will be 8 laps here in the restart, but let's take a look at why Simpson is no longer here on the grid.
Okay, there's the collision where Daly wheelies coming out of the hairpin, bumps into Simpson. We wind up about 10 seconds later coming off the back straight, and right here, Simpson has no brakes, and he decides to jam on the rear brake and get off his Yamaha, and that was probably necessary, a tough decision to make. Simpson had been one of the great stories so far this weekend, and now basically the entire field watched that huge crash happen. They were all in the back straight when the incident occurred, and now we've restarted here, and look at that. Daly ducks under Collins. New grid, of course, so Daly would be on the front row.
Wow, Daly takes the lead. Hope that Matt Simpson is okay, but just stunning footage of that crash that brought out the red flag. So they head down through turns number 3 and 4, and Collins, for the first time in his Pro Supersport career here in Bridgestone CSBK, not out in front.
But interesting, I don't think we've ever had 3 GSXR 750s leading the pack, and that's what, look at Collins, what a move.
Oh, and he hits a bump there in the pavement as well, kind of grabs, and Daly will steal the lead back, undercuts back into first, and looks like smoke came out there from Daly's bike.
That was when he set the front tire down because it wasn't going as fast as the rear, and I think it indicates just how strong the performance is of Daly's GSXR on the back straight.
He is really pushing, though. He knows this is his opportunity. He knows how fast Collins is when he gets fresh air out front.
Collins looking to make the move on Daly. Daly, first time he's led a race so far this year.
And a huge wobble there from Collins, and he somehow gets it slowed down. Daly with a shake of the head as they round their way back towards the stripe.
Anyone else, you would say that pass happened out of control, but because of the way Collins rides and his experience, particularly in Europe, he is comfortable pushing the bike that hard, and I think it's literally a challenge he makes to himself to see if he can make that work, but he was all out making that move on Daly at Allen's corner.
And now you can see the body language really start to kick into overdrive for Torrin Collins as he tries to get back a manageable gap.
And you can see there he drops that leg out and then he hinges the bike over the steering head. Here he is going by Daly. What we're not seeing with this onboard view is that the rear wheel's in the air and the front end is sliding. Right here, as he commits to the move, he is not in fully controlled mode of his motorcycle, and that's everything you need to know about Torrin Collins in one shot.
He didn't have either feet on a peg in that move. It was sliding around, holding on to the front, and somehow was able to make it stick. So he gets first position back. Daly second. Sebastien Tremblay staying with this pack as well as Elliott Vieira's in the conversation.
And I'm glad you mentioned Tremblay. He's in third, which is the podium position. But you got to say that the way Collins is riding is the thing that Tremblay was concerned about, that he didn't want to have to deal with riding close in that style of competition. But what you got to worry about, Collins won yesterday. He's leading today. You know, you can ride as aggressively as you want if it keeps leading to wins, and that's how you can get a championship.
And the youth movement is on from 5 on down. There's Phil de Gama-Blanchette as Andrew Van Winkle, Alex Michel, Maverick Sear as well, all in a great midfield battle in this extremely deep Supersport class.
And got to mention Van Winkle. He had a big crash Thursday morning in testing, but he's on a GSXR 600. They're hoping he has a 750, but that hasn't happened yet. He showed well on that bike last year. And again, Collins had a big look back, and what he saw was encouraging, that Trevor Daly's close, but not too close.
And he is, the G-forces that he is throwing forwards as he puts on the brakes there at the end of the back straight, slides his way through turn number 6 and carries the speed up here into Allen's corner.
When you're learning to be a pro racer, oh my goodness, he was so out of shape there. When you're learning to be a pro racer, learning to chase the front end is one of the hardest things. A lot of people never succeed. A lot of people crash and get hurt trying to learn how to do it. That he can do it almost every turn, every lap is spectacular. And if you have an opportunity to see this guy ride in person, you got to go see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, winning on his second attempt in the GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class, coming into Supersport here in 2025, running the full calendar, and the body is twisting and turning and in all sorts of crazy shapes, but he continues to lead.
And interesting, last year in Superbike, he didn't enamor himself to our number 1, Ben Young, and here Tremblay is trying to figure out how to deal with Collins as well.
It is a great battle as Collins decides not to take a peek over the shoulder this time. He does it his own way, and he's continuing to lead out in front. Daly and Tremblay, second and third. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Importations Thibault, Bridgestone, and EBC Brakes and Clutches. Working lap number 5 of a shortened 8 after the red flag was brought out earlier for a massive crash for Matthew Simpson as Torrin Collins continues to lead past the halfway point from Trevor Daly and Sebastien Tremblay.
Got to mention Elliott Vieira in 4th. He is right there on top of Tremblay. Those two have raced each other quite a bit in the last few seasons. And of course, Vieira on the top Ducati. There used to be quite a few of them, but now he is the leading flag flyer for the Bologna brand.
Andrew Van Winkle all the way up into 5th right now. Alex Michel also getting past Phil de Gama-Blanchette, who is probably setting the mark this weekend for ability to go up and down the grid.
Yeah, it's a tough transition, and it's good to see him getting the hang of that Ducati. Very different riding style required from the Kawasaki he was on last year. But the guy adapting to a new bike the most impressively is for sure Collins on that GSXR that's being prepared by his dad.
And interesting with Phil de Gama-Blanchette being on the Ducati in Supersport and also riding a Honda in Superbike, which brings me to the idea of Torrin Collins riding this GSXR 750. He also rides one down in the States in Moto America, but they're not the same bike per se.
No, the spec is different. This engine would be less massaged, slightly massaged, electronically slightly altered, but not nearly to the degree of what's necessary in the States with slightly different rules down there in terms of the fuel injection. But suspension-wise, which would be the feel of the bike, this bike has K-Tech components, and they were built by Willie Vass, whose shop is in Alberta, and he primarily looks after Ben Young's stuff. So the good news there is that the feel of the bike in terms of the way it steers and the way it rides the bumps is going to be very similar to his American bike, but the performance of the engine would not be.
And I know how much you appreciate this, Colin, that just turns the engine braking all the way off when he's down in Moto America. Can't do that up here in Bridgestone CSBK, but he just says he doesn't really need the aids in braking. He'll do it himself.
Well, the engine braking thing is a touchy subject. Most of the riders don't like to talk about it, but in terms of getting a lap time, if you start following World Superbike and MotoGP, engine braking is a focal point of how they set up those motorcycles, and certainly in the Superbike class, we're in an era of electronic manipulation. I do not think that Collins' bikes offer nearly the opportunity for him to manipulate it. Now, having said that, and we're getting kind of esoteric here, Daly's bike is an American spec, different setup, and has a much larger ability to tune the bike.
We'll see whether or not that one-speed Suzuki has anything for Torrin Collins. At one point, One Speed and Trevor Daly did have the lead here, but Collins stole it back and has not relinquished it as of yet.
And let's take a second to mention Seb Tremblay, who's done more tuning on a Canadian spec GSXR than anyone else. This is his Gen 2 bike. He's got a different GSXR this year from the one he won the title with, and he has, yes, focused on engine braking.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see all three of the top lined up for podium, Suzuki, 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 as the white flag comes out, last lap.
Yeah, I don't think Vieira is going to be there. Van Winkle is catching up, so that's great. Got to mention Michel. He has been quietly working away on his Kawasaki 636, and that's an original gangster set of rules motorcycle.
Maverick Sear making his way on the Triumph up into 7th right now. But out front, the 71 of Torrin Collins had a big moment down in the hairpin with only a couple laps to go in yesterday's race. Still pushing the front all the way in here on the final lap.
Yeah, Collins, another good look, and he leaned over, picks his knee up off the ground, has a look behind him to see what's going on. Daly's far enough back, he's not too worried, but you can bet he's going to brake like a madman through here nonetheless, foot on the ground, pivoting on the steering head. All the normal entertainment we expect from Torrin Collins.
Absolutely sensational to watch him begin his Bridgestone CSBK Pro Supersport career with a victory, a pole, and even into the final corner. Torrin continues to push the boundaries of what's possible as he will sweep the weekend and celebrate in front of family.
And he was sideways on our camera cut there. There was a big moment that I think he might have done that one on purpose. Got to mention our next race is at Shannonville, Nova Scotia, a very different track in terms of its location and setup, a very hilly and demanding bumpy racetrack. He has never been there.
Amazing to think about Torrin Collins on the roller coaster at Shannonville, the ability to be able to rip that bike up and down. He was in total control today, even when it looked like he wasn't in control at all. But that's the Torrin Collins experience, Colin.
Yeah, the Torrin Collins experience was something to behold. There we have our breakdown of the front runners. Van Winkle, our top 600. Michel second in the old school rules bike. Sear climbing up to 7th in his debut with the Triumph this weekend. De Gama Blanchette, after looking very good early on, fades to 8th in his Ducati debut weekend. John Lang in his debut on the GSXR. Playford a strong 10th with his return on the Ducati.
Congratulations on the win, Torrin. How does it feel to wrap up Shannonville on a high?
Yeah, it feels amazing. I got the clean sweep, pole position in race 1 and 2 wins, so that's great. Mostly I'm hoping that Matt Simpson's okay. It's a pretty nasty get off. But right now I'm here to celebrate. I'm really happy with the weekend, and yeah, great start to the championship.
Awesome, congratulations.
Great of Torrin Collins to acknowledge Matt Simpson after his big crash and went past it, making his way around during the red flag. Obviously scary for everyone, but he has the championship lead and is in control after round 1. Right,
so as we head out to Nova Scotia, Daly in second, but everybody behind has to be worried if Collins can continue to ride this way, particularly in his debut at a new track. After we're in Nova Scotia, we're in Alberta, and then it's going to get really difficult.
Suzuki dominance here at Shannonville Motorsport Park as Ducati holding up in second just ahead of Yamaha, but it was Suzuki, Suzuki, Suzuki in race number 2 of the 2025 Pro Supersport class, and Torrin Collins controls the championship after a dominating performance.